Hey there, it's Stacy from Kzoo Keto bringing you another chaffle recipe. So your Thanksgiving is not going to be complete this year without something pumpkin flavored, right? It usually is for me. I'm not a fan of pumpkin. However, I have created a pumpkin spice chaffle with a super yummy topping. Stay tuned to see how to make it. To make my version of the pumpkin spice chaffle, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need your heavy whipping cream. So then you've got your pumpkin. This is the Libby brand, which you can find pretty much anywhere in the US. It is a little more expensive, but it is one of the lower carb counts that I have been able to find. The net carbs are 7 for half a cup, and it is nothing but pumpkin in here. So you'll want to make sure you check for that when you're buying this as well. So I have found a couple of, we'll call them regional brands, that have had maybe one carb lower, but that's about all I've been able to find. I would be very interested if you're out and about and you look for your canned pumpkin to find out how much the carbs are for maybe your local regional, or if there's another national brand that you can find that might have lower carbs. I would be grateful to hear about that, because this is where most of your carbs are coming from. And then we've got your cream cheese, your egg, pumpkin pie spice, baking powder, coconut flour, and the monk fruit sweetener, erythritol. Okay, so real quick note on this. We use this for pretty much everything that we use to sweeten, unless we're using liquid sweetener. This particular recipe, I used powdered. Now, I don't buy it powdered because I buy this and I put it in a spice grinder to get it to a powdered consistency. You are certainly welcome to buy the powdered stuff, but I personally don't see a reason to have both of them because we don't have the room for it. And I think it's cheaper to do it myself. So, spice grinder, granulated. All right, so we're gonna start with 2 ounces of softened cream cheese so that it is in this consistency. You can get that by leaving it sit out on the counter, or for a quicker, throw it in the microwave for 15 to 20 seconds on high. Then we have 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of heavy whipping cream, 3 tablespoons of pureed pumpkin. And we'll get those mixed together. So this is what it's going to look like when you have it all mixed together. It's going to be a really loose batter. Then we're going to add in our 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and 1 tablespoon of powdered erythritol monk fruit sweetener. We're going to go ahead and stir this in. Okay, so then last as always, we're going to put in the coconut flour. This is 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. So some people ask why I use coconut flour, and I do so because of a couple of reasons. One, it's less carbs. The reason why it's less carbs is because it is very, very absorbent. So you use a lot less in coconut flour than you do if you did almond flour. Also, for that reason, that makes it cheaper. Who doesn't like cheaper? So we're going to dump this in. Stir it up. So once you get the coconut flour mixed up, you're going to get kind of this consistency. I like to let it kind of sit for just a little bit before I throw it on the chaffle makers, because then that way it absorbs a little more and it just kind of thickens up a little bit better and becomes more structurally sound. So I would say a minute, maybe 2. So this amount does make 3 chaffles. For anybody that likes to have a little extra in there, because they're good on their own, which this is coming from me. I am not a pumpkin person. Greg's not a pumpkin person. There are a lot of people that aren't pumpkin people.
That are probably not watching this video because this is about pumpkin spice chaffles.
I like it. So, and I think it's like what Greg said. Mason likes pumpkin stuff, but he doesn't like the custardy pumpkin stuff. So I think that's my issue, because I have found that I really like these. And with that, I added in some chopped up pecans to give it a little extra flavor and crunch. So with the pecans, when it comes to changing the carbs, I think at most it might add 1/4 of a carb or half a carb. because these are for a 1/4 cup of pecans. They're only 1 net carb. So I think if you're going to put pecans in it, you can say maybe it's just about 3 net carbs per chaffle, which in my opinion, it's pretty worth it because I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of the chopped up pecans. All right, so I have my preheated chaffle irons here, and you're going to put about 1/3 of the batter on there. Of course, it wants to stick to the spatula.
Wow, it's really thick.
It is really thick. And then just kind of press it down. So, get this on, oops, flinging it all over the place. And I just usually kind of dump it right in the middle and then slowly push the chaffle iron down on top of it because it'll spread it out. You can see this one's puffing up already. That's from the eggs and the baking powder. Okay, so it's been 3 to 4 minutes. Let's go ahead and pull it off. Throw it on our rack so it can cool off and let it cool, and then we'll be able to enjoy it. Alright, so I cheated and I already ate 1, so we only have 2 left. But I thought for the taste test on camera, I'd like to throw a little more pizzazz into it rather than having just a plain chaffle. So if you haven't seen our Oreo cookie chaffle recipe, I'll link that up here. I did make a filling to go into that. So if you make that filling, and I took about probably a tablespoon of that filling, maybe a little less, and threw a couple shakes of cinnamon in it to kind of give it a little cinnamon flavor to go with the pumpkin and the sweetness. So we're going to throw this on, or plop it, a couple of these, and I kind of threw it in the microwave to soften it up a bit because we put our leftovers in the fridge. Okay, so let's give this a try. It's a very cakey-like texture in my opinion on the inside. The outside is kind of firm, but the inside is kind of cakey. And then of course, you know, you've got the icing, which has, the way I make it, it makes it a little crunchy, but I don't mind it. And it also has, of course, the cooling effect that the erythritol has, but I've gotten used to that too. But it's really good. So I think this may have changed my mind a little bit on pumpkin. When I always said I didn't like pumpkin, it was because I wasn't a fan of like pumpkin pie, like that texture of that. Like that's just mush, pumpkin mush in my mouth pretty much. This has the more of the cakey-like texture, and it's also got, of course, the pumpkin pie spice, which is good on its own. But yeah, I actually like this. I might have changed my own mind when it comes to pumpkin. So I think you should give it a try. And if you do, let me know in the comments below what you think about it. You can add more pumpkin to it if you want more pumpkin flavor. However, I have taste tested this with a few people at work and some family, and they all think it tastes pretty good, pretty on par with pumpkin spice stuff, which I'd never had before this. Greg is not taste testing right now because he is on an erythritol ban, just to try and see if it will help him nudge the scale in the right way a little bit. So that's it for us. Let us know down below what chaffles you've tried, which ones you like, what do you want to try. Till next time, stay keto. It's kind of like a frosting. For that frosting recipe, I took about pumpkin. Good Lord.